Well, Anthony Albanese has joined Joe Biden and other Quad leaders at a meeting in Japan overnight.
And the focus there was firmly on the stability of the Indo-Pacific as China continues to expand its power in the region.
For more, we are joined by Nine's political editor, Charles Croucher in Hiroshima. Charles, hello to you. The Quad has issued a joint statement. Did China get a mention?
G'day Sophie, g'day Clint. Not specifically, a bit like Voldemort, China, we don't mention them in name. The Quad instead calling for peaceful, prosperous, stable and secure region, but then the very next sentence said free from coercion or any intimidation. I don't think you have to look too far to realise who they were talking about when they say that. That is, of course, the whole purpose of the Quad when it was started, is to contain China, not now but in the future as well, by bringing these four democracies together, four powers of the Pacific, and working as a unified front. And that's what last night, albeit a long way from where it was meant to take place, actually exhibited here in Hiroshima.
So our PM, Charles, and Joe Biden also had a one-on-one meeting. What actually came out of that?
They did a couple of crucial things from this meeting. Again, meant to take place in Sydney, instead took place here. The President apologised for the need to move. The first one is this agreement to move forward with clean energy technology, and really crucially for Australian mining in WA and South Australia, Queensland as well, is this idea of these rare earth minerals, things like lithium, cobalt, silicon, that we have in abundance, that other countries need for a green energy technology and also for military technology. The US have agreed that we will be considered a domestic partner, so effectively like one of their states, and that removes all these tariffs and barriers from getting Australian minerals and products into the US for defence. That's worth big money. The other agreement that came from this whole meeting, particularly with the Quad, is an elevation and advancement of the Pacific Islands Forum. This is a gathering of the really small countries in the Pacific Islands. Elevating them to a higher level keeps them on the side of the democracies. They're very wary they may be drifting to the side of China.
Hey, Charles, Ukraine's President Zelensky also made a surprise visit and the leaders issued new sanctions against Russia. What did they decide?
These are the highest sanctions ever issued by the global community against a superpower, effectively, or a former superpower in Russia. They've also agreed that they will train up Ukrainian pilots to fly F-16s. They are the American-made fighter jets that will eventually be given to Ukraine. Obviously, the big impediment of just giving them fighter jets is you need pilots that can fly them. This has long been resisted by the US out of concern. Now they've given the green light for the training to take place. That will, you will assume, then lead to the jets from either Europe or from the US going into the Ukraine, flown by Ukrainian pilots. And that will be a huge help for Ukraine in their fight against Russia. It's a big deal. And it was big that President Zelensky was here in Hiroshima. He doesn't leave Ukraine very often. He's been very welcome, almost the guest of honour here at the summit.
Crouch, just before you go, you're right now in Japan with the PM and the leader of the free world, who you appear to be getting along with famously. Let's check this out.
This goes in stages.
Mr. President,
I've been in these negotiations before.
Mr. President, can
Shush up, okay? Thank you.
Charles, you've been told.
Shushed by a president. Brutal.
How does that feel, mate?
been told. Look, it was a good laugh. Sophie's known me for 18 years. There's been plenty of times she's wanted to say the same thing, I'm sure. Joe Biden, it can be sometimes difficult to know when he's finished talking, and when his zealous press pack, you've got to get in at the right time. It would appear I didn't get in at the right time, but look, it's all fun. I've lived in America, worked in America. I know they have the First Amendment, which is the freedom of the press to ask those questions and the freedom of speech to give those answers, and we got both yesterday.
That's enough. Shh.
Are you a shusher or a shushee?
No, I'm a shushee.
You're a shushee. Yeah. In a movie, I'm definitely a shusher. Shh.
Crouch, thank you so much. How's that? Owned by the US President?
I know, Charles.
Fair enough. He can do what he wants. We begin this morning, though, with those high-level talks at the G7 summit. Our PM, Anthony Albanese, chairing a meeting with Quad leaders from the United States, India and also Japan, and it was certainly productive too. Joe Biden signing a defence deal with Australia as the summit leaders hit out at China. Shoulder to shoulder, Australia stands with its closest allies.
Okay, thank you.
On the sidelines of the G7, the Quad is assembled. Meant to meet in Sydney, a cancellation from Joe Biden threw a spanner in the works.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for accommodating the change of location.
The Commander-in-Chief apologetic as he praised our flexible Prime Minister, who stressed the importance of strong ties.
Standing together for an open, stable, secure and prosperous Indo-Pacific region. A region where sovereignty is respected and all countries, large and small, benefit from a regional balance that keeps the peace.
The message is crucial at a time when China is flexing its muscles. In a strong statement, the G7 leaders revealed they're seriously concerned about the situation in the East and South China Seas, describing peace in the Taiwan Strait as indispensable to the security and prosperity in the international community. In response, Australia is binding its defence production with the United States. Joe Biden confirming he will ask Congress to add Australia as a domestic source for arms manufacturing as part of the AUKUS agreement.
And all politics may be local, but our friendship is permanent.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Friendship's essential in a world where the threat of war looms. That made very clear when Volodymyr Zelensky travelled from Ukraine to Japan. His presence triggering fresh sanctions on Russia 15 months into a war which has plunged the world into an era of uncertainty.
Yes, good morning to you. Lovely to have you company on this Sunday morning. We've got breaking news first up. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has just spoken in Japan after he met with Quad leaders on the sidelines of the G7 summit. For more, let's bring in Nine's political editor, Charles Croucher. Charles, what did he have to say?
Good morning, Clint. The Prime Minister outlining what happened last night with that Quad meeting. It was pushed back, it was rearranged, they changed the location, but crucially, according to the Prime Minister and the others in the room, it happened. And it outlaid the plan of the Quad moving forward, in particular securing the Indo-Pacific, that is our region effectively, for free trade, free exchange and free flights. This is all about China, obviously, and perhaps containing the expansion of China moving forward, but also elevating the Pacific Island nations around Australia and their role in diplomacy, as well as taking advantage of some of the natural resources that Australia, India, Japan and the United States have, in particular those critical minerals that will be used in the future, things like lithium, silicon, rare earth minerals that will be used in the future for green energy, but also for defence, and that's where Australia can really cash in, particularly with the United States moving forward. The PM is speaking as we talk now. Here's a part of what he had to say.
What we're doing is we're investing in our capability through the Defence Strategic Review, through AUKUS, but importantly we're investing in our relationships as well. Our relationships with other nations in our region through the Pacific Island Forum, through ASEAN, but also of course through the Quad, which is a very important body. I said as well that we would hit the ground running, and I started running on the 22nd of May and haven't stopped since.
The guest of honour here at the G7 in Hiroshima has been Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian leader, flying in yesterday. He was given a warm welcome, and also the promise that Ukrainian pilots will now be trained on F-16 fighter jets, with the idea of getting them in the future to help the war effort against Russia. From here, Joe Biden goes back to America, not to Sydney as first planned. He's dealing with his own domestic problems back there. Anthony Albanese, on the anniversary of his election, will fly back to Canberra tonight.
Hey there, Today fans. Sarah and...
What's my name again?
Oh my God, Carl.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel, though. Subscribe now for more news, special reports and amazing Aussie stories.
And Carl misbehaving,
Whoa,
of course.
that never happens.
Always happens.
What's she talking about?